The Sumerian tablets are rewriting human history. The gods from Nibiru, the Anunnaki, descended to Earth. They came for gold, but they created humanity. Enki gave wisdom to humans, while Enlil sought to control them. The Great Flood destroyed everything, but Ziusudra survived. Kingdoms rose, Babylon became powerful, and one by one, the Anunnaki left Earth. But this story doesn't end here. Reality or myth? This is the mystery of the Sumerian tablets. In the kingdom of Nibiru, there was a great struggle among the gods. Who would be the supreme ruler? Who was the rightful heir to the throne? Because of these questions, the gods harbored hostility towards one another, trying to resolve their disputes through violence. One of Anu's sons, Enki, had grown weary of these endless wars and conflicts. He was a god devoted to wisdom and science. However, his brother Enlil was filled with an unrelenting desire to rule. Enki had fallen victim to his brother's schemes many times in the past, yet he still believed that one day peace would prevail. However, things did not go as Enki had hoped. The struggle among the gods would also determine the fate of humanity on Earth. Enlil's son Ninurta and Enki's son Nergal wanted to start a great war. Their target was Enki's other son Marduk. Marduk had seized Babylon and claimed it as his own domain. This terrified the other gods. Marduk's rise posed a major threat, especially to Enlil and his lineage. Enlil's youngest son, Ishkur, insisted that Marduk had to be stopped, while Inanna declared him her greatest enemy. A great assembly of the gods was held. Enki warned that war would bring disaster, but Enlil's supporters believed Marduk had to be punished. In the end, Anu made his decision. The weapons of terror shall be used this time. This was the decision that sealed everything's fate. Ninurta and Nergal were taken to the place where the great weapons were stored. Enlil taught them how to use the secret weapons. These weapons were the most powerful ever used by the gods to rule the worlds. They were so destructive that they could obliterate an entire city. When the weapons were unleashed, the earth was plunged into catastrophe. Marduk's cities and supporters were the targets, but the results were far worse than expected. A massive explosion occurred. The sky darkened, the land cracked, and the land of Sumer was engulfed in deathly silence. The wind of evil spread everywhere. Poisonous gases filled the sky. Rivers dried up. Fields burned, never to grow again. People searched for a place to escape, but wherever they went, death followed them. Cities were abandoned, and even the temples were forgotten by the gods themselves. As Enlil, Enki, and the other gods watched the consequences of their actions, they were filled with deep regret. Even the gods had not anticipated such devastation. There was no turning back now. After this destruction, the people of Sumer never regained their former glory. The dark throne struggle of Nibiru was getting harsher with each passing day. Ruler Anu knew that the people were losing hope and that his kingdom was in danger. The planet's atmosphere was gradually weakening, with harsh winds and extreme temperature changes threatening life on Nibiru. Scholars were searching for a solution to repair the atmosphere, but no method was working. Meanwhile, the former ruler of the throne, Alalu, was facing the danger of exile. He had once defeated Anu and ascended to the throne, but during his reign he had failed to find any solution to restore Nibiru. The people had slowly begun to turn against him. Anu challenged Alalu to a duel. According to the traditions of Nibiru, a throne dispute could only be settled through hand-to-hand combat. The two great gods faced each other in the largest square of Nibiru. Fists flew, bones broke, but in the end Anu emerged victorious. Alalu was defeated. He fell to the ground, and everyone watched his downfall. Alalu could not accept this defeat. He devised a plan to reclaim his throne. That night, while everyone was celebrating the victory, he secretly infiltrated Nibiru's space base. Without anyone noticing, he boarded one of the most powerful sky chariots. He closed the hatches, started the engines, and fled into the darkness of the stars. However, this escape was not just an escape. It was the beginning of a great adventure. Alalu shocked all of Nibiru by setting out towards the solar system. His target was clear: Earth. Earth had been studied for years by the scholars of Nibiru. Ancient texts spoke of great amounts of gold there. This gold could be the key to repairing Nibiru's atmosphere. If Alalu could discover and retrieve the gold from Earth, he could reclaim the throne. The journey was arduous and perilous. First, Alalu passed near Pluto. This small planet stood like a sentinel at the outer edge of the solar system. Then he saw the enormous blue atmospheres of Neptune and Uranus. He admired them for their resemblance to his own planet, but his real destination lay ahead. When he reached the great giant planet Jupiter, fear gripped him. Jupiter's immense gravitational pull tried to drag him in. The swirling gas storms and massive moons orbiting it nearly swallowed Alalu, but with a skillful maneuver, he managed to escape. As he left Jupiter behind, the greatest danger appeared before him: the asteroid belt. These massive piles of rock and metal were the most dangerous region of the solar system. Many spacecraft had been shattered there before. Alalu activated the weapons of his ship. He used the ancient gods' missiles to destroy the large rocks. The rocks exploded, a path was cleared, and he managed to pass through. At last, Earth appeared in the sky. From a distance, he could see the blue oceans, brown lands, and white ice caps. The planet seemed divided into three different regions: white ice caps in the north and south, and green and brown lands in the middle. As Alalu tried to determine a landing site, he entered the planet's atmosphere. His ship began to burn at a terrifying speed. The friction in the atmosphere heated the outer surface of his ship, and he felt intense turbulence inside. If he made a wrong move, he would either fall into the ocean and drown or crash into the ground and be shattered to pieces. With one final maneuver, he deployed the wings of his ship and slowed down. He closed his eyes, held his breath, and made a hard landing. When his ship finally stopped with a loud crash, everything inside fell silent. Alalu slowly opened his eyes. He felt his heart pounding wildly. Now he asked himself the most important question: was he alive? He slowly unfastened his belts and opened the door of his ship to look outside. As he stepped out, he felt that he was in an unknown world. Looking around, he saw a great river and lush green plants. The ocean shimmered in the distance. The sky was blue and the wind blew gently. Then he lifted his gaze to the sky and thought of Nibiru. They believed he was dead there, but now he was on Earth, and the gold here could help him reclaim his throne. Alalu sent a message to Nibiru. "I have reached Earth. There is a great amount of gold here. Listen to me." This message caused great astonishment on Nibiru. The gods could not believe what Alalu had accomplished. Anu had thought he was dead, but now Alalu had an offer. "If you make me king again, I will bring you the gold of Earth." There was a great silence on Nibiru. The gods had listened to Alalu's message but had not yet decided what to do. Anu did not trust Alalu's threats, but the news of the gold on Earth intrigued him. If this gold could indeed save Nibiru's atmosphere, perhaps he would have to make a deal with Alalu. The Council of Gods convened. Enlil said that Alalu was a liar. He argued that Alalu could not be trusted and that it was even uncertain whether there was gold on Earth. However, Enki stepped forward and spoke to his father Anu. "If Alalu is telling the truth, this gold could be the salvation of Nibiru. I will go to Earth and investigate the truth myself." Enlil objected. He said that he should be the one to go instead. But Enki was a wiser and more scientific god. He knew the stars, planets, and elements well. Anu made a decision. Enki will go to Earth. If there is indeed gold, he will inform us and return. Enki and his team boarded a massive spacecraft and set off for Earth. This journey would be the second trip from Nibiru to Earth. However, this time, the goal was not merely to escape, but to explore. Enki and his team made a long and arduous journey. They first passed Pluto's icy surface. They crossed the bright blue atmospheres of Neptune and Uranus. As they advanced through the massive storms of Jupiter, their ship shook. But the greatest danger was the asteroid belt. Alalu had previously used weapons to pass through this region. Enki had to be more cautious. He recalculated the flight plan and, together with his team, tried to find the safest route. They managed to pass through the asteroid belt, avoiding the large rocks and metal masses. Finally, the blue surface of Earth appeared. Enki thought about how beautiful this planet was. Compared to Nibiru's red, hot, and dry surface, Earth was lush and green. The ocean sparkled, and the sky was adorned with clouds. However, landing would not be easy. Alalu had suggested a region for landing. It was a place with large rivers and expansive land. Enki and his team carefully landed their ship and set foot on Earth. Enki and his team first examined the air and water of Earth. Surprisingly, the air here was breathable. However, it was lighter than the air of Nibiru. The oceans were clean, but due to their high salt content, they were undrinkable. Alalu greeted them with great joy. He now felt like the first ruler of this planet. He told Enki how he had survived here, what foods he had consumed, and how he had made his discoveries. The most important issue was the gold. Enki began conducting research using his special devices. He scanned the soil and water. Eventually, he received the expected result. There was indeed gold. However, the gold was very scarce on the surface. The real wealth lay in the depths of the rivers and beneath the oceans. Enki reported this situation to Nibiru. This news caused great excitement on Nibiru. Enlil was envious of Enki's success. If the gold on Earth could truly repair the atmosphere, it would place Enki in a very powerful position. Anu made a new decision. Enlil would also go to Earth and oversee the mining operations. Enki would continue to focus on exploration and science. However, this would mark the beginning of a great rivalry between the brothers. Enki devised a grand plan for collecting the gold. First, a settlement needed to be built. Together with his teams, he selected an area near the rivers and named it Eridu. Eridu would become the first Anunnaki city on Earth. Shelters were built here, and food and water sources were identified. However, Enki knew that they needed larger vehicles for transporting and processing the gold. Enki sent a message to Nibiru. There is gold, but we need a larger team and more equipment. We are awaiting King Anu's decision. When this message reached Nibiru, Anu decided to send a new team to Earth. However, this time, he ordered Enlil to take charge. When Enlil arrived on Earth with a large group, he saw that everything was already under Enki's control. Enki had already built cities, begun the gold search, and established order. This disturbed Enlil. Enlil wanted to take control of the governance of Earth. He challenged Enki and took over the leadership of Eridu. But Enki had to resist this. The rivalry between these two brothers would herald great wars in the future. There were now two great leaders on Earth, Enki and Enlil. However, this did not mean that they would work in peace. On the contrary, the struggle between these two brothers would shape the fate of Earth and the Anunnaki. After Enlil arrived on Earth, he saw how well everything had been organized. Enki had achieved great success. Eridu had been established as the first Anunnaki city on Earth, and gold collection efforts were progressing rapidly. However, Enlil did not want his brother to gain so much power. In his opinion, he was the one who should be in charge of establishing order and managing the affairs. Enki was an explorer and a scientist, but not a ruler. Enlil sent a message to Nibiru, telling Anu, Enki may have accomplished great things, but we cannot leave the management to him. With my arrival, a new order must be established. I will take control of the governance of Earth. Anu gathered his two sons and wanted them to work in peace. However, Enlil wanted to have complete control over the administration. Enki, on the other hand, was peaceful in nature and did not want to fight with his brother, but this struggle was inevitable. Enlil took strong warriors by his side and moved to take over the administration of Eridu. In his view, Enki was only a scientist and should not interfere in matters of governance. Enki, together with his loyal scientists, engineers, and astronomers, began working on a new plan. He wanted to advance his discoveries on Earth further and establish new cities. This division caused great tension among the Anunnaki. Some gods supported Enlil, while others sided with Enki. Gold mining continued at full speed. However, this work was hard and exhausting. The Anunnaki began to complain about being overworked. The harsh conditions of Earth were wearing them down, and they had to work long hours in tiring jobs. One of the most vocal opponents was Abgal, the leader of the celestial workers under Enlil's administration. Abgal and his workers voiced their complaints to Enlil. Aren't we gods? Why are we working like slaves? There must be another way to do this. Enlil ignored these complaints and tightened the work even further. However, one day a great rebellion broke out. The Anunnaki workers stormed Enlil's palace. They declared that they would refuse to work and that the governance needed to change. Enlil angrily shouted at them, but the rebels did not back down. At that moment, Enki intervened. Enki had been studying the different life forms on Earth for a long time. The primitive creatures on Earth were physically strong, but had limited intelligence. Enki thought that he could genetically alter these creatures and use them as workers. This way, the Anunnaki could be freed from the mining work. Enki's plan was this. By injecting Anunnaki genes into Earth's primitive creatures, he would create a new species. When he presented this idea to Enlil, Enlil was horrified. "Are you going to give the blood of the gods to these creatures? This is unacceptable. We cannot create a species between gods and animals," he shouted. However, Enki was determined in his idea. In his eyes, this would both end the workers' rebellion and accelerate gold mining. Enki secretly began working in his laboratory. His sister Ninharsag became his greatest assistant. After long genetic experiments, Enki created the first human. He named him Adapa. Adapa could think, speak, and understand commands like the Anunnaki. However, unlike them, he was mortal. When Enki presented this new species to the other gods, Enlil still opposed it. However, over time, it became clear that these new beings greatly assisted the Anunnaki workers. Humanity had been born. After the creation of Adapa, many other humans were created. These humans began working in the gold mines and Anunnaki cities. Enlil, reluctantly, accepted the use of humans. However, one day he noticed that the number of humans was rapidly increasing. What would happen if one day humanity rebelled against the Anunnaki? This caused great fear in Enlil's mind. Enki, on the other hand, wanted to further educate the humans and provide them with knowledge. This made the rivalry between Enki and Enlil grow even more. The order on Earth had now completely changed. Enki had become the teacher of humanity. He was educating them, providing them with knowledge. Enlil, however, did not trust humans and wanted them to be kept under control. This ideological difference marked the beginning of the great catastrophe to come, because Enlil had started to see humans as a threat. One day they saw a catastrophe approaching in the skies. The orbit of Nibiru had changed, and a great flood was imminent. As time passed on Earth, humanity began to grow and spread. The first humans created by Enki served the Anunnaki, worked in the gold mines, farmed, and built cities. However, Enlil was not pleased with these developments. The number of humans was increasing, their intelligence was developing, and they were starting to form communities among themselves. What Enlil feared was that one day humanity would rebel against the Anunnaki. In his eyes, humans should only be workers. But Enki was giving them too much knowledge. He was educating them, teaching them art, medicine, agriculture, and engineering. Therefore, Enlil began to adopt a harsher stance toward humanity. He imposed strict laws to limit their reproduction and weaken their power. However, Enki and the gods loyal to him continued to help humanity. But it wasn't long before this conflict would end in disaster. The Anunnaki were beings who studied the movements of stars and planets very carefully. The sky observers brought terrifying news to Enki and Enlil one day. Nibiru was approaching the solar system, and this passing would cause a great flood on Earth. Nibiru had a very long orbit, and it passed close to Earth once every few thousand years. But this time, the planet's gravitational pull would be so powerful that the Earth's oceans would flood, great earthquakes would occur, and the end of humanity would come. The gods realized that there was nothing they could do to prevent this catastrophe. Even they were helpless against the great power of nature. Enlil decided to use this opportunity for his own plans. This flood will completely wipe out humanity. We should never have created them. This will be a natural purification. We will not help them. A great debate began among the gods. Enki said that humanity should be warned. If they prepared in advance, some could survive. But Enlil firmly opposed it. Finally, the Anunnaki swore an oath. No god would tell humanity about the flood or warn them. Enki opposed this decision, but he could do nothing. Still, he didn't want humanity to be completely wiped out. That night, he made a plan. Enki decided to speak with one of humanity's wisest leaders, Ziusudra, Noah in Sumerian mythology. But not directly, because the gods had forbidden him to communicate with humans directly. Instead, Enki devised a plan. At night, he secretly sent a whisper to Ziusudra's home. It reached his ears as a voice in his dreams. Ziusudra, listen to me carefully. A great flood is coming. The waters will cover the earth and destroy everything. But you must survive. Ziusudra woke up in fear. He took his dream as a sign. Enki told him to build a large ship filled with supplies, animals, and his family, where he would take refuge. This flood will destroy everything. Only the strong will survive. If you build this ship, humanity will continue. Ziusudra immediately began working to fulfill the task given to him by the gods. Without telling his people about the flood, he said he was building a large structure for a temple. The other gods who helped Enki secretly supported him. As the flood approached, Enki and Ninharsag took precautions to protect certain animal species and plants, because this flood could destroy all life on Earth, not just humanity. Days passed, and eventually the anticipated moment arrived. Nibiru's powerful gravitational pull affected the Earth's seas and atmosphere, creating massive storms. The ocean swelled and giant waves crashed onto the shores. Suddenly the sky turned dark. Massive earthquakes began. Mountains trembled, rivers flooded. Then the great wave came. A giant wall of water swept across the earth, wiping everything out. Cities disappeared, and fields were submerged. Even the highest mountains were lost beneath the water. Enlil, watching this, thought humanity had truly been wiped out. Finally, the earth is cleansed, he murmured. But Enki, with one last hope, looked towards Ziusudra's ship. The flood lasted for days. The sky was pitch black, and no living creatures could be seen. Even the gods were filled with fear. Finally, the flood slowed. The rain stopped, and the waves receded. Ziusudra's ship continued to float on the surface of the water. He and his family had survived. The ship rested on the peak of a great mountain. Ziusudra and his family stepped out and gave thanks to the gods for their survival. The gods were surprised that they had survived. Enlil was filled with great anger. "How is this possible? Humanity should have been wiped out," he shouted. Enki finally revealed the truth. Humanity is our creation. We created them and guided them like gods. If they had all been destroyed, our legacy would have been lost too. These words sparked a great debate among the gods, but eventually Anu calmed the situation. Humanity has survived, and we must now accept them, but we must bring them under control once more. Enlil reluctantly agreed to this decision. Ziusudra and his family were given a new task. Humanity would be rebuilt, but they would always serve the gods. And so, those who survived the flood laid the foundation for a new civilization. After the Great Flood, the earth was silent. The great cities, temples, farmlands, and mines that had existed for centuries were now gone. As the oceans began to recede, only mud and destruction remained. The Anunnaki watched this devastation from the sky. Enlil thought humanity had been completely wiped out, but one day when he learned that Ziusudra and his family had survived, he was filled with great anger. "How is this possible? We wanted the end of humanity, yet they are still here," he shouted. Enki, however, remained calm. He was the one who had saved the humans. He turned to Enlil and said, "This was their destiny, Enlil. Humanity is the work of the Anunnaki. We couldn't completely erase them." A great debate began among the gods. Some supported Enki, while others sided with Enlil. Finally, Anu announced the orders from Nibiru. "If humanity hasn't been wiped out, then we will establish a new order." And so a new era began. The gods watched as the humans who survived the flood struggled to build a new life. Ziusudra and his family were given the opportunity to practice farming, domesticate animals, and build new cities. Enlil, though unwilling, decided to give humanity a chance. However, he had no intention of letting them be completely free. A new decision was made. Humanity would continue to serve the gods. But this time, some knowledge and rules would be taught to them, though immortality and divine knowledge would be kept from them. The gods began to establish new cities after the flood. Humans were placed in these cities. Thus, the first kingdoms on earth emerged. The leaders of these kingdoms were semi-divine figures chosen by the Anunnaki. These rulers came from both human and divine bloodlines. The fundamental principles of this new order were: humans would continue to serve the gods. Temples would be built for them, prayers would be offered, and sacrifices would be made. Enki would teach humans art, engineering, and science. However, the secret of immortality would be kept hidden. The goddess Inanna would rule one of the earth's kingdoms, Uruk. This represented the control of Enlil and Enki's bloodlines over different cities. Thus, Sumerian cities began to be built one by one. Eridu, Enki's center of science and wisdom, Nippur, Enlil's sacred city Uruk, Inanna's domain Larsa and Lagash, regions where humans practiced agriculture. Humans began to live within this new order. Years passed. Humanity grew and developed. However, the competition among the Anunnaki was not over. Meanwhile, Enki's son Marduk believed that he should be the true ruler. According to him, the throne was his by the laws of Nibiru. However, Enlil and his supporters rejected his claim. Marduk began to draw humans to his side. He told them that the gods no longer needed them. He incited them to rebellion. In the end, a great war of the gods began. Marduk made Babylon his center. Enlil and his supporters went to war against him. Inanna, using her power in Uruk, challenged Marduk. Chaos returned to the earth. When Marduk declared his rule over Babylon, Enlil and his supporters reacted strongly. The Anunnaki were divided. Those loyal to Enlil, they wanted to maintain the existing order. Those loyal to Enki and Marduk, they argued that humans should determine their own destiny. In the end, Marduk won and made Babylon a great kingdom. After these wars, the Anunnaki began to slowly depart from Earth. Enlil decided that the order on Earth should now be governed by humans. Enki said goodbye to humanity and told them he would continue to watch over them. Inanna ruled her kingdom, but over time her power diminished. Marduk ruled Babylon, but his kingdom also eventually came to an end. The Anunnaki gradually left Earth one by one. However, humans did not forget their stories. The gods had retreated to the sky, but their traces continued to live on in the heart of civilizations. The Sumerian tablets have left a great question mark in our minds. Did the gods really descend to Earth? Who created humanity? Or is all of this just a myth? If you love ancient mysteries and secrets like these, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next exploration. Goodbye.